Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the PETHS Alumni Network podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, and today we are joined by Sofia Lau-Alves. How are you doing?
Hi, great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on here. So to give a bit of background, you graduated in 2007. You then went on to the University of Waterloo to study environmental studies. And, you started out in sustainable building and you've kind of transitioned into tech, which we'll talk on a little bit later. I see that you were very involved in high school on sports teams and councils and other groups. What are some like standout moments for you thinking back to those high school years?
So I always try to participate in school as much as possible. And so yes, sports teams and like student count, I was in prom committee and Octagon Club. And so like we did like fundraisers for like different illnesses like MS and like all this stuff. And yeah, it was fun.
Towards the end of it, when you made the decision to go to the University of Waterloo, what was kind of like the earliest point at which you realized that you want to study like environmental studies?
Well, I actually stayed back a year after grade 12 because in grade 11, I found out about this program. It's like international co-op program that you like live in Ecuador for like 3 months or like 4 months. And you get to like do like school and also travel, right? So I was like, oh, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do after university, after high school. And I didn't want to like rush into it because it's a lot of money. And so some people are like, oh, after you graduate from high school, if you don't work right away, if you don't go to school right away and you work, then you're gonna like maybe not go back to school and like it's gonna get like hard, right, to get back into like the studying habit. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, this is a good balance because it's like studying and traveling. Basically, people are saying that if you travel after university, after high school, then you won't get in the rhythm. You'll lose the rhythm of like going to school and stuff and work. And if you work, then like you just might not go back to school. So I was like, oh, this is a bit of both. And like I wanted to experience another culture. And also I was studying Spanish throughout high school. So it's like this is a way to like integrate into the culture and like really learn the language better because like they won't speak English to me. So I did that. And so since I only found out about it in grade 11, I had to like prepare for it in grade 12 or something, or like I had to like stay back another term to prepare for going and then go because it's a 4 months of preparation and then 4 months of living in Ecuador. And you actually get like high school credits for that. I think it was like 3 or 4 high school credits. And that was like the best experience I've ever had. Like there's so much pressures in high school to be a certain way and like if you grew up with the same group of friends, like they expect you to be a certain way, right? But if you go and like just unplug and like you put yourself in a different country with no one knows who you are, you can be whoever you want. But like your true self basically, because there's no pressures of like, like, oh, they expect you to be a certain way or whatever. So yeah, and then also I realized like living in a different country, like there's so much similarity and like basically we're all one, like we're just all trying to be happy and like provide for our family and like just find our way, right? And like I think traveling when you're young also is very important because it allows you to find yourself faster and like really reassure like yourself like who you are, and also you learn your weaknesses and strengths a lot more because it's like when you're put in an uncomfortable situation, like you learn these skills that like you wouldn't normally learn if you're like always in your comfort zone. So you kind of like shed light on that faster, and then also it breaks like the like what's it called, like you have less like judgment of others, and like I guess it breaks like racism and all this like prejudice, right? Like because you're living with other people and like yeah. So and yeah, so I think like it's very important that schools, like eventually they should just make like traveling and living abroad for schools mandatory as like a course. I think that's like would make the world a better place. But unfortunately, it's very expensive. So I don't know. Like I had to fundraise. Oh, that's another reason why it took 4 months preparation. I had to fundraise to be able to go. But yeah, so I went to that, and then that's when I realized like I want something that allows me to travel, and also like something that's like meaningful, because like, and I at the time like I learned a lot about like environmental issues going on, and I thought like helping the environment is helping everyone basically, because like animals need the environment, people need the environment, so it's like okay, and then I can travel anywhere because everywhere has environment, and it's like all connected, right? Like so I'm like I want to be in environment. And also when I went to university, I took environmental studies. One of the school trip I went to, we went to Michigan University, and we took a tour of their faculty of environmental planning or something, the environmental building, and apparently that building was built with the students of the faculty. Like they planned every like they were the ones involved with the planning of the structure, and so everything was like environmentally conscious, like we made. So basically it was like a living organism, like the building. So like when it got too hot, the windows automatically opened to let air out, or like it would be like filtering its own water in the basement, like all the water in the toilets and sinks all reused in the building. And like it's so many cool things that they did. So I was like, oh my god, like if this technology already exists, why isn't all buildings like this? And like there were so many different like types of ways to do it, but I decided to do it through LEED certification because I was like seems like it was most well known like internationally. But before I did that, I actually landed a job in a sustainable consulting firm, sustainable building consulting firm, and they helped me with the funding for the certification, like the exam, because they have to pay for the exam. So that's what I recommend people. Like I know like you want to study more and like be prepared, like have a good credentials, like going into the market. But sometimes like it's hard because you don't have the money to study, right? So look for companies that are actually willing to invest in their employees with a like education, because then that's how you can get ahead, right?
Yeah. So, you talked a lot about, traveling and, the importance of, it teaches you like life skills and it helps you like see the world. Are there any like other places that, you've traveled to and it kind of like stood out to you or taught you anything specific?
My favorite is like the Latin American cultures, but I've only been to Peru, Ecuador, and Costa Rica. Costa Rica is one of my favorites. I actually got married in Costa Rica, and it's just like so magical. Like everything, everywhere you look, it's like beautiful, and like if you're into like nature, but like I liked Asia too. Asia is really good for food, and they do have like Japan is like very interesting. Like it's very like extreme. Like it's like busy, bustling city, and then there's like the calm, like Zen area, like Hanoke. I don't know, Hakone. Yeah, Hakone is like the hot springs, like Zen, like town or city, and then there's like the Osaka and like Tokyo and stuff like that. Like there's like a busy feel. But what else? I really like Portugal. I'm half Portuguese, so growing up I went to Portugal pretty often. Like my grandma lives there, and like when I first went to Portugal, like I fell in love. I don't know. I just felt like one day I will be moving there. I think maybe it's biased because I'm part Portuguese, but like it's just so like everything is so clean. Like even the subway station, like people are wearing bare feet. And like after the beach, they like walk on the bare feet in the subway station. And it's like, oh my god! In Toronto, you can never do that, right? And then food is so good,
Mhm.
and I always felt safe. Like I never felt like scared in Portugal. But like growing up, you like of course you realize that there's dangerous places everywhere in the
Yeah.
country. But yeah, the safest apparently is Japan.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
if you leave
Mhm.
like your belongings and like no one will like take it apparently because it's like
Mhm.
very like taboo for them
Yeah.
or like yeah. But yeah, I love traveling. So I've been many places, but yeah, everywhere has good and bad, but um like it just depends on your like what you prefer doing. Like some people prefer more city like stuff and
Mhm.
shopping, but I don't.
Yeah.
For like the food and the nature and like excursions.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like Ecuador was really good for excursions. Like also because it's more affordable. Like that's why I also like
Yeah.
Latin
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
It's like not so expensive to
Mhm.
do things. Yeah, your buck will go along a lot longer.
Yeah, so on that side of like education where you learn through like experiences and things like that, you talked about knowing like your strengths and weaknesses. I'm curious as to how that newfound like knowledge of seeing the world and seeing yourself in this world, how that's kind of helped you move through your other areas of your life, like professionally and socially and things like that.
Yeah, so like I guess like um after the Ecuador co-op experience, I feel like I went in really scared and nervous and like not knowing what to expect. And then during it, I was like, oh, like I'm actually like surviving
Yeah.
um and like people enjoy me and like I'm doing good in my like oh yeah, you have to choose a job placement. So I chose working at the zoo because I actually loved like animals and I was like, oh maybe I want to be a vet or something like that.
Mhm.
So I want to like just see how it is. But I decided not to be a vet because I didn't really want to like deal with like surgeries and like
Mhm.
uh, animals dying and stuff like that, like the gruesome stuff. But yeah, so like I guess like perseverance, like and resiliency, like that's what I learned, and that just like trust in yourself that like everything will work out, and um, just like as long as you do good and you come from good intentions, like you will surround yourself with good people and good outcomes. And of course, you always have to be aware of your surroundings when you're traveling. Because I actually was with someone in Quito and we did get like almost robbed, like chased. But like that's because we were walking in the dark and in a like quiet like street, right? But like at least we were aware of our surroundings when we ran, right? But yeah, like it does teach you street smarts because some people are just like don't haven't been outside of the country and
Mhm.
like they become fearful, right? Like and then
Mhm.
fear creates like judgment and all the stuff that's unwanted, right? So as long as you just like try to always step out of your comfort zone and put yourself in awkward situations because it always makes you stronger and like better each time because without those experiences, without those encounters, how are you supposed to know how it is on the other side of it, right? So like
Yeah. Hmm. So, one thing that I really enjoy talking about on this podcast is, getting better, every day and putting yourself out there is a big topic. And, I see that you've, completed many, further, education, certificates, and you talked about the lead one earlier, and you've gone back and bettered yourself in, these academic settings. Can you kind of tell us like what was your like intention behind it, and like, how does someone stay open to kind of, continue learning throughout their life?
right. Well, as like just I just realized like you just always need to be learning. Like life is not like, okay, you learn this and then you're done. Like every single aspect of your life, like either job, like relationships, your personal growth, you're always going to be learning something. There's never like a moment where like, oh, finally I learned everything. Like no, like there's no one in earth that has learned everything. So everything you experience or anything you learn is something useful for the next step in your life. So like um, so stuff that I learned like the lead certification one, like I actually I had to take it because in order for me to like keep signing off on documentation, I needed to have that certification. So, and then like how I chose which one, because like there's like I think 4 or 5 different categories of LEED certification. There's like interior spaces, there's pre-construction, and like existing buildings and stuff like that. Like I chose, or I didn't actually choose. Did I choose? Yeah, actually, sorry, I did choose. I chose pre-construction because I thought that was more interesting, and I got hired because I was in the process of doing it. And then the exam, they helped me with the payment for that, so that was nice. And then after I did that, they wanted me to take another one, which is interiors, but I didn't actually end up doing it because I changed jobs then. But actually, no, I got laid off from that job because I couldn't do the interiors. So what happened was that year when, right after I finished the certification, like maybe a couple months later, they were like, "Oh, we need to do the interiors one." So I was like, "Oh, I'm actually planning a wedding this year, so I won't have that much time to like study." So like it was a small company, and I think they probably needed that really that someone with that certification uh, like urgently. So they decided to let me go and then hire someone that had that already. So I was like, okay. But yeah, that was actually a really tough time. Like I was like, oh my gosh. Well, luckily they did it right after my wedding, like a couple months after I got back from my wedding. So I wasn't like devastated during my wedding. But yeah, I got laid off for the first time. That was a learning experience, and I realized, like looking back, like when that happened, it felt like the end of the world basically because like your identity, right? Like you feel like you failed. But apparently this happens all the time. It's just a company restructuring and like, yeah, and that's another thing that I want to touch on why I got into tech. But basically, if you ever work for a company, you're like at the company's expense. Like you can get let go anytime, and you know they can do anything, right? So that's why you need to rethink on what you want to do, and like make sure that you're I guess like what's it called, valuable in the company. Like you're doing something that like won't get taken over by a machine or someone else. But yeah. So and then the other certifications, like I went back to Seneca to learn about building systems. So during that time when I was looking at the job, I needed more technical knowledge for building systems. So I can talk because I had to like converse with like engineers and architects and stuff meetings, and like it was very intimidating because a lot of times I didn't know what they were talking about. So I had to like gain that knowledge. So that's why I did that. And then what else did I take? I took project management fundamentals because that also during that job, like I had a lot of learning to do. Well, actually, the company pushed me in the deep end and like told me like to like learn a lot. So I'm grateful for that because I did like what's it called, progress really fast. Like I got hired as a project coordinator, and then 4 months later they made me a project manager. Like it's flattering that they trusted me to do that, but at the same time, it was so stressful, like so stressful because there's so much more expectation, right? So yeah, I took project management fundamentals just to like make sure I knew what I was doing.
Earlier on, we touched on, you started in sustainable building and then you've transitioned into tech. I'm kind of curious as to, what the rationale for that decision was and, how your experience has been transitioning into tech.
Yeah. So after I got laid off from the sustainable building consulting firm, like I said, I was like really like down, and I was like needing some soul searching and like reevaluating my life. And basically, I was living in Aurora at the time, and my job was like in Etobicoke, and it's like a very long commute. And most of the sustainable like companies are in Toronto too. So I was rethinking. I was like, if I apply to sustainable roles again, I will probably have to accept something in Toronto region. And that means an hour and a half commute one way every day. So I want to put myself through that again. I was like, okay, maybe I should just find a filler job until I move closer to the city. Okay. So then, so I just like picked up some jobs here and there, like through connections. I was like a sales and marketing, and then I did also closets by design, and then I also picked up Rover. Rover was really interesting because it was like I could basically schedule my own, like plan my own schedule and like accept dogs and reject dogs like based on, you know, if they were well behaved. So that was really lucrative for me because in Aurora, basically everyone has a dog or a pet, and I was getting lots of good reviews, and like everyone wanted to hire me. So I was like, okay, you know what? Wouldn't it be interesting if I make my own website where they can hire me directly through the website? Because, well, Rover charges me a fee to use their platform and also my clients. So yeah, I'll just try that. So I was looking into like coding programs. And so during my soul searching, I was like, okay, there's this program that does sustainable building. That's like physically building a structure, like and I forget what the course was called. It was like a 4-month program, and I think it was like in Oshawa or something, somewhere like that area, Oshawa and Pickering or something. And basically, you would have to live on site because every morning you would have to go on site and like physically build the structure. And like there's like maybe 30% theory, and then the rest was like physical learning. And I was like, oh my god, that's awesome, because I was in the office all the time before, like sitting down and like not getting much exercise. And actually, to be honest, I didn't really learn a lot of like sustainable building construction. It was more like product, because I had to like verify the product that they were using was sustainable, like with VOCs or whatever. So I was like, you know what, that didn't help me much with like personally building a sustainable home. So I wanted to take that course so I would learn like how to build a sustainable home. So anyways, and then I signed up everything. We were just waiting for the course to start, and then COVID hit. And then another blocker. I was like, dang. And then that program got canceled. So it's like, you know, physically you have to be there. So, and then that's when I was like, okay, you know what? It's a sign that I should do something online, because then that's like more robust and like, and I should do something that's like my own so I don't get laid off. So yeah, so I did that at Juno, whatever. And then after Juno, like during the program, they have like a careers like a session where like they help you find a job. And also what was really nice about Juno, which all schools should actually do, it just makes sense, okay? So Juno basically, if you don't have enough money to pay for the full tuition, you just pay whatever you can upfront. And then after you get a job that pays at least, I think they say 50,000, then you pay them slowly. Like I think 14% of your paycheck until it's like paid off your tuition. And I was like, oh my god, all education should be like this, because education is so freaking expensive, and it's not even guaranteed you get a job, right? So this way, the company and you win, like both win-win, right? And like it's not like we don't want to learn, but it's just we don't have the funds. So if you help us and then help us get a job, we just pay you back, right? Like it just makes sense. So it was just like, I don't know, it just meant it just like was like really, really like good program that they allowed this, and I got a scholarship, so it helped a lot. So anyways, I took that, and then they helped me find a job, and I landed a job in daylight automation. So yeah, so I landed a job, but so like my website and my Rover thing kind of like was on the sidelines. Like I didn't actually make my own website with my own business, because I got caught up with working in the tech industry. And also because I had to pay back the tuition, so I had to like find a job. So anyways, it was really good experience, daylight automation. One of my judo friends actually referred me to what's it called, my classmate referred me to the job, and then yeah, so I got to work with my friend. It was so fun, and the company itself was like really good. Like I've never worked for a company that had such great company culture, so supportive, and like, and they just like, I don't know, it was just like amazing and like so organized and like, I don't know. I don't know if it was just because it was a tech industry or because it was a specific company, because I never worked for tech industry before, right? So, but and then in August last year, unfortunately, they got bought out by Quadient, acquired because they weren't doing well financially. So they had to like look to get bought out, and then in order for the deal to get to to in order for the deal to happen, they had to like cut 50% of the company. So me and also my friend got cut off, and a bunch of other people, and yeah, so it was hard because it was during my mat leave. I was on mat leave last May. So this May coming up, I'm finishing my mat leave. So I'm in the process of looking for jobs, and which is really like a challenge when you're on mat leave because you're like supposed to be taking care of your baby and like you know, but I have to stress about looking for a job at the same time.
Yeah, so I'll just, you touched on, looking towards your next, your next job. Do you have any, inclination as to what you want to do, stay in the tech industry? Like, what are some specific requirements that you're looking for?
Yeah, so for sure, I want to stay in the tech industry because I feel like that's like the current, like more like current with the time. Like I know some people that are like, I was talking to a lot of people like they're in government jobs or like, I don't know, just other companies that are like very behind in like their times. Like they just the processes are very like slow or whatever. Like I feel like I really enjoy fast pace and like being current. And I feel like tech companies also treat their employees better. Like I feel like there's a better work-life balance, and like it's more. I feel like also generally it's like a younger crowd, so maybe that's why it's also like more fast-paced. Um, and also it's they offer like remote work. Like you don't have to always go physically in the office, which is like something like I value because you save so much time from having to commute and also energy. Especially now that I have a kid, like I'd rather use that energy for like him than having to drive in traffic. And also, when I was ironically when I was driving from Aurora to Etobicoke every day, I was also it was like eating at my soul because I was polluting the earth. Like yeah, sometimes I did take the GO, sometimes I did take subway, but like it would take me a lot longer. And also my husband would have to drive me like to the subway or whatever. So it was just like, yeah, that's another thing that really got to me. It was like so ironic that I'm trying to save the world in the sustainability field, but I'm traveling every day. Like, yeah, like sometimes I don't think I even need to go in the office. Like just do my work at home. Eventually, we did get to do that, but yeah. Anyway, so being remote is very, very, very important to me. Like at least majority of the week. And then for types of work that I'm looking for. So my previous role, I was doing um, customer solutions lead, and apparently this title is very like not common in the industry. But what I understood is like it's very close to a business analyst, and it's basically getting um, like product requirements from the usually like you work closely with a product owner, and then you translate it into like for your developers to build. So that's what I was doing. And I found that like pretty fun and interesting, and so I wanted to like go into that more because I was like maybe 2 years experience with that, and my manager actually said that like I have the qualities for like a product owner role too. So like that's on the other side, I guess, working with like the actual like client and giving or like inventing the product for the developers to build. So yeah, that'd be cool to do. And yeah, and like a company that values, you know, their people and education. And it'd be a plus if it was like a sustainability like tech company too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, second last question for you. Do you have any aspirations, you know, that we haven't touched on yet that, you know, you want to achieve?
Like I do think that long term, the long term goal is to be like my own boss someday. Like I want to have my own company. And it has to be like a meaningful thing, and yeah, and that's my long term goal. But I just don't know what it is yet, and I think I can do it. And I've already been laid off 2 times, so like I don't know. It's like the universe is telling me, like, you know, like pushing me to do it. But you know, it's not just me. I'm like, I have to think about my family too, right? So yeah, I can't just like drop everything and start my business because it does take a lot of energy and income to do. But yeah, and I just want to keep learning and meeting interesting people, and yeah, like the tech industry, like I've been attending a lot of networking events and a lot of cool conversations and interesting conversations that I've like had with them. And yeah, it's getting me ideas for my own business, but yeah, I want to continue meeting interesting people that I can get ideas.
Yeah, sounds good. We'd love to see you, you know, succeed in what you do. And you know, our last question is: do you have any other PET grads that, you know, you'd like to nominate to be on this podcast?
Yes, I nominate Alexandra Russell. She is very interesting, and she actually has her own business. And I think she's very successful, and I think like she's only going to get more successful. And yeah, like she's really good at being interviewed too. Like she's really a people person, and yeah, she's actually one of my best friends too. I just saw her the other day. So yeah, and she also wants to change her career, but she doesn't know what yet. But I think yeah, it would be an interesting conversation to have with her.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. You know, do you have any closing remarks before we end?
I really enjoyed like having this talk with you, and I think what you're doing is really interesting, and keep up with the good work. And I hope like this segment or this interview helped others. And yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it was very nice talking to you too. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Thank you so much, Sophia, for your time, and we'll see everyone next week.